This is House of David Torah 201, lesson number 6, Understanding Realms. This recording is to replace the original attempt at a live recording that had technical difficulties and was not able to be rightly uploaded. Point 1 is realms are established at creation. Bereshit 1:1 or Genesis 1:1. The Hebrew reads, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim va'et haaretz. Bereshit, in the beginning, bara, created, Elohim, et hashemayim, the heavens, va'et, and the earth. The heavens, the realm above, was noticed that it was created first. Then afterwards, the earth, secondly, the realm below, created to mirror the reality of the realm above. All that is good, righteous, filled with light and life in the realm above, in the heavens, the goal is to replicate that in the earth. And originally it was so, until we find that there were some issues that caused a fall of this lower realm. In Matthew 6, verse 9 and 10, Yeshua is teaching us how to pray, and he says, this then is the way you should pray. Our Father who is in the heavens, let your name be set apart. That is people on the earth crying out for the set apart nature of the name of Yah to become set apart on the earth. For it says, let your reign come, let your desire be done on earth as it is in heaven. And the desire of Yah is indeed that his name would be set apart by his people on the earth. And so Yeshua is connecting both realms, the realm above and the realm below, and asking us to do so through the agency of prayer and intercession. So from the beginning, two realms have been established, the higher and the lower, the spiritual and the physical. And this part will be on your quiz. The realm of light and life, and the realm of darkness and death. Repeat that. Higher and lower, spiritual and physical. And then we have the important phrases, the realm of light and life, which is above, and the realm of darkness and death, which occurs below. Initially, the realm above appears in rebellion against the realm above. The realm below is rebelling, being in a chaotic state of darkness, formlessness, and having a great void. That's Bereshit chapter 1, verse 2. And there are those that see a time lapse then between verse 1 and 2, suggesting that the earth went into a state of rebellion. Hasatan fell from the heavens, created a disastrous scene, and that's what you have in verse 2. And that indeed may be so, but there is also a clue found in Isaiah 45, verses 6 and 7, where he says, Yah says, I am Yahweh, and there is none else. Verse 7, forming light and creating darkness, making peace, and, shock, creating evil. I, Yahweh, do all of these. And it's not that Yah is evil in and of himself to be the source of evil, but Yah created the capacity for evil to occur. That's through the choice agency of man having a free moral choice. It may be well then that Yah initiated the chaotic state or allowed it to develop to reveal the answer to darkness. What is the answer to darkness? Light. Calling forth light. Where there is light, darkness may encroach, but as long as the light is on, it's not going to be overwhelmed by the darkness. But you can be in a completely dark situation, no light whatsoever. One source of light begins to push the darkness aside immediately, at least by the volume of that light. The greater the light, the greater the darkness is dissipated. So notice that Elohim established the realm of light and life, where darkness and the lack of life existed and brought about a perfect order. Into that chaotic state of darkness and disarray, Yah created light, or brought forth light, called forth light, and it brought a sense of order and right standing, and which correction is the word. It brought correction. So we continue in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. And Elohim said, "Let light come to be," and light came to be. And Elohim saw the light, and that it was good. And Elohim separated, key word there, separated the light from the darkness. The word separated is the Hebrew word badal. We would transliterate B apostrophe D-A-L. It means to sever or to make a difference. Key thought here, to make a distinction. Light makes a distinction against darkness. Also note that Elohim separated the waters from above from the waters below. That's found in chapter 1, verse 6 through 8. Elohim said, "Let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And Elohim made the expanse and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse, and it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse heavens, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the second day. This creative act of division that Yah initiated separated the waters below from the vaporous waters of the atmosphere above. But it was not just a physical reality, it was also a spiritual reality. And in the spiritual sense, the waters of the Shekinah meaning simply the manifested light and glory, the presence of the Most High, as it can be seen, it separated the sense of the waters of the Shekinah in the heavens. And note here that the word heavens in Hebrew is ha-sha-mayim. Even the name of the heavens in Hebrew reveal that there are mayim, there are waters, plural, in the heavens. It separated the Shekinah from being able to be made manifest in the earth. Now, let's look again at this text, and we find that on the second day, Yah did not pronounce the activity and its result as tov, or good. This is the only day of creation where Yah didn't say things were good. In other words, the separation is not ideal. Now, it's for a purpose. It's for a rectification and a restoration purpose, but it's not been seen yet. So when Yah's people have walked in obedience, they have seen and experienced His presence being made manifest at times. At the construction of the Mishkan, or the tabernacle in the wilderness, when all things have been made exactly according to Yah's design and His commands, the glory aligned above with the glory, or with the obedient structure below, and Yah's presence became visible. In other words, it became manifest intensely, so much so that Moshe could not even enter in. So the effort of Yah's people now should be that we try to find alignment of the heaven and the earth in action of obedience to His word in order to see the glory of the Shekinah manifested. That is, that as the heaven is here, we want to see His glory line up appropriately so that heaven and earth properly agree and connect, and that the waters above can connect with the waters below, in a manner of speaking. In Psalm 72, verse 17, it says, "Let His name be forever. His name continue before the sun, and let them bless themselves in Him. Let all nations, all peoples, call Him blessed," not just Israel. Verse 19 says, "And blessed be His esteemed name forever, and let all the earth be filled with His esteem, Amen and amen. So the psalmist is saying that there is a goal of having Yah's esteem, not just in Israel, not just over the Temple Mount, but to cover the earth. Habakkuk 2:14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the esteem of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. And Habakkuk 3:3. His splendor shall cover the heavens, and his praise fill the earth. So, Yah, again, he is looking for his esteem, his manifested glory, his Shekinah, his Kavod, to be manifested in the earth as well as in the heavens above. Now, Yah established boundaries for us at creation. He said that plants and trees and fruits, that they must be replicated according to the seeds that they contain, so that they replicate after their own kind. That evening and morning are going to be separate. And that signs and times and seasons, there are boundaries around them. Those are set times. We can't just choose them at our own convenience. Further, he said that creatures must reproduce after their kind. So our mixing of species is not a good idea. It's not according to Yah's plan, and it brings chaos. And then he put a boundary around the seventh day. 6 days you're to work. The seventh day you're to rest. Again, where man has violated that boundary, we have brought about chaos. And we've entered into some wrong realms, you might say. Adam, or mankind, was placed in Eden, where he lived in that which was indeed set apart, the realm of light and life. Spiritual man was having a physical experience. And let's get that in the right order. We are not physical beings having a spiritual experience that comes and goes. We are primarily spiritual beings, and this body gives to us a vehicle in which to have a physical experience. We are spiritual first. And he was created without the influence of darkness and death. Adam also had a boundary. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil was forbidden to him. Everything else was available, but Yah says, not this tree. Adam ended up trading this realm, the realm of light and life in the garden, for another realm, the realm of darkness and death, by violating the boundary that was established for him. Again, when we violate Yah's boundaries, we invite ourselves and place ourselves in a different realm. The world, as a result, then fell under the influence of the realm of darkness and death, and the created order of Yah is now being challenged, and it's challenged into this day. So we're going to continue then with the thought of, your status determines your station. Your status determines your station. In Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 15 through 20. See, I've set before you today life and good, death and evil, in that I am commanding you today to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to guard his commands and his laws and his right rulings. And you shall live and increase, and Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in the land where you go to possess. But if your heart turns away and you do not obey, and shall be drawn away and shall bow down to other mighty ones and serve them, I have declared to you today that you shall certainly perish, and you shall not prolong your days in the land where you are passing over Jordan to enter and possess. I have called heavens and the earth as a witness against you today. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Notice these realms. Therefore you shall choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed. To love Yahweh your Elohim, to obey his voice, and to cling to him, for he is your life and the length of your days, to dwell in the land, in the realm of light and life in the land, which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov, to give them. So again, the realms are being declared to us. Yah is going to bring us into the land, and the goal is that we remain in the land by being in the realms of light and life. When we disobey, darkness and death enter in, and ultimately the land will spit us out, because the land is not designed to operate in that realm. Abraham was told in Bereshit chapter 12, Lech Lecha, go get yourself out. Another way of saying that might be Abraham, or Avram at that time, change your realm. He also heard, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be tamim, be whole, be complete, and be perfect. So he was to be complete and entirely in accord with truth and with facts. So let's understand what's being said here. Yah's desire is that we dwell with him in light and life, that we not be under the rule and the domain of death and darkness, but also that we have the ability to reach into the lower realm and elevate men and even objects trapped there to the higher realm. We're realm changers. Not that we are jumping between realms ourselves, but we are those that enable others or other things to change realms. We're called to move the waters below to the place where they align with the waters above. Now you might say, well, what waters, Barry? This body is made 80% of water. We are primarily water. As water beings, we need to move under the place of the waters above. So we do so so that the set-apart presence, the Shekinah, may move and be revealed in the earth as it is in the heavens. This is our summation then. We're called to find his presence, his genuine expression, his heart and passion, and bring his light and life-giving power to see the darkness permeated, death conquered through resurrection power, and see health and healing reign where sickness and disease has reigned previously. So Abraham is called to be a complete and a whole man, perfected by truth and by his trust. He lived in the lower realm, but he learned to dwell, to operate in the higher realm. He indeed became a man who knew how to properly move through the realms, bringing the power and the promise of the higher to the lower, and he was able to elevate mankind with him through his walk of obedience. Yah promised him and prophesied to him, in you all the peoples, all the nations shall be blessed. That is, to learn to walk as he walked. And Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 10, verse 3, by those who come near me, let me be set apart. And before all the people, let me be esteemed. Chapter 10, verse 10 says, so as to make a distinction, there's that word again, between the set apart and the profane, and between the clean and the unclean, or the unclean and the clean, as it reads. Yah here is allowing us again to see there are realms, there are spaces, places that we operate in, and it is especially identified to us as we seek to approach him. If you feel like, I'm trying to get close to you, Yah, and there's just this barrier. It may not be a sin barrier. It just could be a matter of uncleanness, and we need to discern what that is and rectify it. In Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 26, he says, her priests have done violence to my teaching, and they profane my set-apart matters. They have not distinguished between the set-apart and the profane, nor have they made known the difference between the unclean and the clean, and they have hidden their eyes from my Shabbats, and I am profaned in their midst. When we fail to discern the realms as Yah requires of us and know how to walk in them, we bring about a profaning or desecration of his name. And Ezekiel 44, verse 23, speaking of the future kingdom. He says concerning those priests in those days, they are to teach my people the difference between the set apart and the profane, and make them know what is unclean and clean. So even in the future, even when the kingdom is upon the earth, there's going to be a need of recognizing what realm we're in, and that it is possible to be unclean or profane. More on that later. In Titus chapter 1, verse 15 and 16, Rashi was instructing and says, indeed, all matters are clean to the clean, but to those who are defiled and unbelieving, no matter is clean, but both their mind and conscience are defiled. They profess to know Elohim, but in works they deny him, being abominable and disobedient and unfit for any good work. So this is not just a quote-unquote Old Testament issue. This is also then a new issue for us. Continuing in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13 through 16. Therefore, having girt up the loins of your mind, being sober, set your expectation perfectly upon the favor that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. As obedient children, not conforming yourself to the former lust in your ignorance. Instead, as the one who called you is set apart, so you also should become set apart in all behavior, because it has been written, be set apart, for I am set apart. And it's more than just stop sinning or walk clean now, don't mess up. The idea is to remain in a set apart state so that then we can approach the Most High in the proper realm. So let's look at this idea of clean versus unclean. These terms, and this is on your quiz, these terms apply to one's state of being as in regard to access the temple. So they concern, and this is your phrase, ritual status. Clean and unclean have to do with your ritual status. That is your ability to enter into the sanctuary or the tabernacle environment. In Vayikra chapter 11, it teaches that food is to be found in the realm of the clean. Any animal in the unclean realm is not food. Even when the scripture says we, receive all food with thanksgiving, basically it's interpreted pray over it and it'll transform. Y'all never call unclean meat food. We did that. Sarat, that we've studied about, called leprosy. It reveals the uncleanness within, breaking through to the exterior. And it does so to give evidence that the one who is unclean in their heart toward another seeks to bring their adversary into the unclean realm with them. When you gossip, when you slander, maliciously speak of someone, you are in the unclean realm and you're seeking to bring your target into the unclean realm with you. Their punishment is the separation that they sought to bring to someone else. And then Nidah, that is the teachings regarding a woman and her monthly cycle. It demonstrates the sanctity of blood. During that period of time, she is unclean, that is unclean to her husband. She is not sinning. This is not a sin. It is the cycle of life. It is the loss of the potential of life. And while that potential of life is being removed from her body, she is unclean to those that are around her. This is her time to be alone with the Master, to speak to him. She's not to be brought into the temple environment, that is the temple on the earth, until she has been cleansed. So while it flows from a potential mother, she is unclean at the loss of life that is now being cleansed from her body. And then we're taught that all bodily emissions, your fluids and your blood, and dealing with dead carcasses and being in close proximity under the same roof or same room, as someone that is dead, it all creates a state of being unclean. And again, we're not talking about sin here. This is not sin. One who has become unclean is not allowed to enter into the set-apart presence again until their status has been changed. You can move from unclean to clean. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, let's read verses 3 through 8. For this is the desire of Elohim, your set apartness, that you should abstain from whoring, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in set apartness and respect, not in passion of lust like the nations who do not know Elohim, not to overstep and take advantage of his brother in this matter, because the Master is the revenger of all such, as we indeed said to you before and earnestly warned. For Elohim did not call us to uncleanness, but in set apartness. Therefore he rejects this, or he who rejects this does not reject man, but Elohim, who also gives us his set-apart spirit. To fail to discern between the realms of clean and unclean, you're not just, we can't listen to man and say, oh, that doesn't matter anymore. No, you're rejecting Elohim in that regard. Pay attention. We must be taught to pay attention. Now, there's a different level and more serious level when we talk about the set-apart versus the profane. While unclean and clean doesn't necessarily result from sinful activity, sin does indeed make you profane as well as unclean. When you are unclean, you may or may not have sinned. If you have sinned, you are definitely unclean. One who is profane is one who has violated Yah's presence and his sanctity. Again, those who approach the Most High must be set apart. They must be dedicated and consecrated to him. To casually or carnally or in the flesh seek to enter into his presence is to defame and desecrate his name. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 15 and 16. See to it that no one falls short of the favor of Elohim, that no root of bitterness springing up causes trouble, by which many become defiled. Lest there be anyone who whores, or a profane one like Esau, who for a single meal sold his birthright. Esau is a profane one. He violated the sanctity of Yah's presence. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 3 through 5. But whoring and all uncleanness and greed or gain, let it not even be named among you as is proper among the set-apart ones. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather thanksgiving. For this you know, that no one who whores, or nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Messiah and Elohim. This is serious business. So since we've all encountered those things and activities that have indeed made us unclean, sometimes even profane, we need cleansing and restoration to the clean and set-apart status. Now, how are we going to do that? Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 22 through 29. Therefore say to the house of Israel, thus says the Master Yahweh, I do not do this for your sake, O house of Israel, but for my set-apart namesake, which you have profaned among the nations wherever you have went. Pretty clear. And I shall set apart my great name, which has been profaned among the nations, which you have profaned in their midst. And the nations shall know that I am Yahweh, declares the Master Yahweh, when I am set apart in you before their eyes. And I shall take you from among the nations, and I shall gather you out of all lands, and I shall bring you into your own land, and I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. There is our changing of status. From all your filthiness and from all your idols I cleanse you. And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you, and I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh. and put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings and shall do them. That is, once our status has been changed, we're going to learn to stay clean, set apart by obedience, and I shall save you. You shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I shall be your Elohim. Now we read, and I shall save you from all your uncleanness. So let's talk about changing our status. In scriptural terms, a mikveh is an immersion into a body of water for the purpose of changing one's status. One who's been in a state of being unclean and has followed other procedures required of the ritual enters into the water, fully immerses, and is granted the status of being clean. So we're talking about an immersion in water, living water, such as what we would call a baptism. It's about changing your status from one who was in the realm of death but has been raised into the realm of life by Messiah Yeshua. Clean and unclean, again, are states of ritual status in regard to one's access to the set-apart environment of the tabernacle. The community of Israel also, if one has been struck with Sarat, or one's husband if they're experiencing Nadah. The state of creation, all the way back in Bereshit 1 again, shows that it was covered in water. Being covered in the waters of a mikveh, an immersion pool, from a time of chaos and upheaval, what was happening? The earth's status was being changed. The Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, was infusing these waters with energy and possibility, awaiting the creative word of Yahweh to be announced over them. His word declared to one, and the mikveh then gives that one purpose and direction and identity. When Yeshua was mikved, if I could say it, the purpose was not to move him from unclean to clean, but rather to move him from common to set apart, that is, to enter into his priesthood. Yochanan the Immerser said, it ought to be the other way around. You ought to be mikvahing me. Yeshua said, let it be done for the purpose of righteousness. In other words, it has to be this way. So the whole earth was again given a mikvah during the days of Noah. It had become so corrupt and unclean that only the life-changing mikvah of epic proportions could bring it to a status of clean again. Noah was living in an unimaginably corrupt world system, yet he remained so set apart that he and his family did not immerse into the mikvah waters, but rather they rode on top of them. Think about that. So was it that Yeshua is also so set apart from the corruption around him that he did not need a mikvah, but rather he walked on top of the water? Is that how you do it? Walk on water because of the state or status that you have. Naaman was given the command to immerse in the Jordan 7 times in order to become clean. That means 7 mikvahs in order to be brought from unclean to clean. The result was he became concerned that when he went into the temple of a pagan god with his king by command, so his king could lean on his arm while he knelt, he said, well, I'll be forgiven that. I have to do this. And the prophet gave him clearance to do so. One returning from warfare and bloodshed had to mikvah himself and his clothes. For others touched by a dead body, the waters from the ashes of the red heifer are required to return them to a clean state. Water immersion, then, has the power to ritually transfer one from the realm of death to the realm of life. This is why a mikvah is important. Israel experienced such a transfer when they were walking through the waters of the Red Sea. So they journeyed from the realm of certain death in Mitzrayim to the potential of everlasting life on the other side. And nations outside of Israel, we really don't have mikvah pools. We don't have access to this. So what do? Hanok Young, our travel guide and friend from Israel, says that most Israeli cities of any size will have a mikvah pool for men and women. We don't have that here. So what do? Well, we can immerse in the creeks and the rivers and the ocean, or if we don't have access and ability to do so frequently, it's the best that we can do. This is a goyim application, and our Israeli friends and Jewish friends are going to bang their head and holler, oy vey, you bunch of Ephraimites, you've lost your mind. But going to the sink and washing your hands, watching the water run over your hands and praying, Yah, cleanse, remove, or putting some water in your tub and standing in the shower. Yah, this is not about soap and water today. This is about, I need to be rinsed. I need to be clean. I need to be washed. I seek to change my status. In our given situations, we do the best that we can. But we know that Yah, He is our cleansing. Yeshua is the waters of the washing of the red heifer. He is the red heifer. Yeshua will cleanse us. And know that as we go into the kingdom, we're going to be washed, and there's going to be a new us. Thankfully, thank you, Father, for that. So we come to the last part here. Why eat biblically clean or kosher? Well, let's recognize this, that the first sin in the garden, it was about food. God invited man from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The fruit of that tree, it was not kosher. The first sin of all mankind was to eat non-kosher food. So yes, it really does matter. Will that ham sandwich send me to hell? Maybe not send you to hell, but it will divide you out of the realm of light and life and put you where you don't want to be. So it does matter. Hasatan showed up asking, is it true that Elohim has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? That was an overstatement, and he knew that. The serpent then encouraged eating what Yah said was unclean with the lie, you shall certainly not die. The woman looked at the tree differently because of this suggestion and says she saw, ra'ah. Ra'ah meaning to consider, to perceive, to inspect. And with her consideration and her perception and her inspection, she determined, yeah, the tree looks good for food. So she went with her decision and not Yah's. And we have generations that have taught us to do the exact same thing, and people still arguing with us about the same thing. But in Vayikra chapter 11, verse 2 through 7, speak to the children of Israel, saying, these are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatever has a split hoof completely divided, chewing the cud among the beasts that you do eat. Only these you do not eat, because among those that chew the cud or those who have a split hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the rabbit, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof, completely divided, yet it does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Now, the middle letter, I find this interesting. The middle letter in the Torah is found in this chapter, Vayikra chapter 11, verse 42, which reads, whatever crawls on its stomach or belly. The word for belly or stomach here is the word gachon, a gimel, a chet. And in the Torah scroll, it's an enlarged vav and a final nun. The enlarged vav is the middle letter of the Torah scroll. And the verse references that we are not to be shakats, filthy, or detestable, but that which crawls on its belly. We are given the choice then to choose between walking in light or darkness, observing Yahweh's boundaries, or accepting the belly-crawling snakes theology, serpentine theology, about whether Yah really meant what he said or not. After all, the food laws have been changed, right? As long as I pray over it, it's okay, right? in chapter 11, verse 46 through 47 of Vayikra. This is the Torah of the beasts and the birds and every living thing, the creeping creatures in the waters and every being that swarms on the earth. Excuse me. To make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. For this, we ascertain that something beyond food choices is being declared to us. We are being given understanding about the realms of Tameh and Tahor. These are two vital words there on your quiz. Tameh means unclean. It comes from the root atum, which means impermeable or sealed off. Tameh then refers to that which is sealed off from the spiritual, being impermeable to divine light or emanation. Yah's light does not penetrate it. So let's go back to creation. If all that was created was able to be permeated by Yah's light, it would have become fully saturated by his Shekinah and merely reabsorbed itself back to the Creator. Imagine with me a flashlight, and its beam goes out, but it doesn't disconnect from the flashlight. It does not go out and stick on its own. You cut off the button, it stops. If the Creator is light, and he is, then he creates everything that he created as light. It's just a part of himself. It doesn't stick. So if all creation was made impermeable to his light, it would not be able to survive. It needs inertia or self-generating, if I can say it, energy of its own. Creation requires constant input of fresh energy, the power of Yah, to continue in its existence. So our world is both Tameh and Tahor, Tahor meaning clean. The unclean is impermeable, sealed off, and the clean, the permeable, and the opening receiving of light. So in creation, there are things that are sealed off from his light, and there are things that are open and receptive to his light. And we, by his commands, are to determine which things or peoples are in each category. If it's unclean, we stay away from it. If it's clean, we can embrace it. We are offered then the choice to choose between being Tameh or Tahor. And the struggle of all creation is between these two extremes. This is the source of tension, the agitation, even the violence in the earth and between all of its inhabitants. So Tameh keeps us from absorbing back into our source, and the Tahor keeps the power of Yah flowing toward us, allowing creation to exist. There are things of life that make us unclean. Happenstance. It's just life. Remember at the washing of the disciples' feet, Yeshua came to Shimon Kefa, who said, "You're not going to wash me." And he said, I don't wash you, if I don't change your status, you have no part in me. Well, not just my feet, my head, my hands. He said, "You're all clean already. Only your feet, that part that traffics through the earth, that part that catches the dust of the earth, that's what needs to be washed." We're not talking about losing salvation here between clean and unclean. We're discerning the realm that we're operating in, the mindset that we're functioning in, the things that are gravitating and pulling at us. Is it clean? Is it unclean? If it's unclean and I've gravitated toward it and I've indulged and I've participated and I've caught up in it, or Yah forbid, I've become profane, I've actually violated the sanctity of his name, I need to change my status. I need to repent if it's sin, and then I need to wash, and I need to be cleansed, and I need my status changed. Last thought. We've seen the earth mikvah at least twice. Yeshua promised that the next mikvah is not water, it's fire. That one you don't want to be a part of. So this concludes lesson 6 of Torah 201. Apologize for the technical difficulties in the first edition. Hopefully this will help you and be successful in your quiz. And we hope to see you soon for lesson number 7, the significance of Jerusalem. To then, shalom.